Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II World at War. In our last episode, we played through the March 9th of 1945 turn, and we began the Japanese invasion of eastern India, with the objective hopefully of breaking through some of this difficult terrain, getting into better areas where we can supply our forces, and driving on the capital at Delhi. We think we have an advantage, but the British do have pretty advanced air units that'll help even the odds with multiple jet fighter units in the region, and they also appear to have some heavy armor units here as well. The Indians have an army of at least around 10 units or so, and the British have supplemental units here as well, as you can see with these British flags. So we may be biting off a little bit more than we can chew, but it's hard to tell quite yet at this point. We also do have a pretty sizable force now that China has fallen for us. We are actually going to go ahead and reposition our air units to Burma. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to... Well, actually, let's keep these guys where they are just for one more turn and see how things play out. But you can see here we began the invasion. We have some supply challenges as we're trying to move some of these headquarter units through heavy terrain. But nonetheless, this is sort of the situation in India. We've also begun an invasion of western India with German forces that have arrived from Persia, and sort of a light invasion force here, only about 5 units, but the hope is that maybe they can advance on Bombay to ensure that if we do take Delhi, that the capital doesn't fall back to Bombay, because there does appear to be an alternate capital at Bombay, and we really want to make sure we deal with that. Meanwhile, the Japanese have landed substantial reinforcements on the island of Java and cut off an American army unit here while inflicting some casualties and likely reducing its supply next turn so that it's going to be in a bit of rough shape, with the Japanese fleet preparing to arrive on scene. We also have 3 Japanese ground units in transports that are ready, and once we retake the island of Java, we may make a move against Dili and then perhaps against Australia. We'll have to see. I would love to go for an invasion of Australia, but I'm just not sure how feasible that is at this time. We also know the American Navy is probably going to show up at some point. They've reinforced their Navy pretty substantially so that it was at 19 units. It's all the way back up to 25. I'm not sure how much of that's in the Pacific or the Atlantic, but we know at least some of it's in the Pacific. Meanwhile, back in Europe, we are beginning driving the Allies into the sea. We've clearly stopped their advance here into France, and we've begun the counterattack and started to really reduce the American forces. We retook Cherbourg, so they're down to the port at St. Milo, St. Nazaire, and Brest, and they probably don't have enough land here to bring in all their reinforcements that you see on these troop transports. Additionally, with the destruction of these troops, once the weather turns, we'll begin to really bring our air units against their naval forces as well, potentially destroying entire armies at sea if they don't reposition these troops to England, for example. We did make a mistake of loading up a German army on some amphibious transports at The Hague. I actually thought they were located here they were going to jump on transports over here, but these guys are going to get destroyed next turn by the enemy Navy forces, unfortunately. We can perhaps stop that. I did realize I have one Stuka that hasn't done anything, so rather than bomb units and accomplish very little, I'm going to go ahead and bomb these British destroyers that are out at sea, and maybe we can reduce them enough to at least destroy one of their naval units here. So you can see we took some casualties there, but our air forces and our Stukas and our fighters were able to destroy an enemy destroyer, which is at least good for the naval balance of power here. We can see the British went from 26 to 25 naval units. The Americans are still at 25. So there's 50 enemy naval units all told. We know there's at least one destroyer here. I know there's an aircraft carrier over here. So there's some substantial enemy forces here, but I think a fair number of those may be directed against the Japanese Navy in the Pacific, so it's really going to be important for us to keep our naval assets sort of consolidated and in a position to do some damage. Additionally, as we kind of push these guys back, I am going to look at seeing about trying to, I know we had this misstep with this guy here, but I'd love to load up, maybe 5 or 6 amphibious units and a headquarter unit and try and make a play for England to see if we can knock England out of the war with a naval invasion. My guess is the majority of the units on the British Isles are probably actually air units, not ground units, where they probably deployed the majority of their ground units to Europe. The British, for example, only have about 42 ground units, and those have been shrinking steadily. We can see at least 2 of them are here. Presumably there's a few more here, and then also they've got a substantial number of troops throughout their empire, through South Africa, through India. So it's a question of how many are actually at home right now if we were to invade. Additionally, they have some ground units here in North Africa as well. We've begun the counterattack in Italy, and we just lost the only Italian submarine in theater, which is unfortunate. But we've begun the counterattack in Italy and are nearly in the process of driving the Americans back onto the island of Sicily, hopefully with the intent of pushing even further and maybe liberating Sicily from the Allies as well. And that's the situation right now, guys. So we've already kind of done all of our moves, with the exception of that destroyer, which we just bombed there. I don't think... I did move one ground unit here into northern Norway in an effort to hopefully liberate the rest of Norway from the British. And I think that's about it. I was going to do a naval invasion of India, but I'm not sure if that's necessary now. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we're going to lose this naval unit as well. We tried moving an army back to Japan, and it got ambushed and waylaid by enemy submarines en route. I would like to strengthen the home islands, though, just in case the Americans come knocking. Okay. I think that's going to do it, though, for this turn. So let's go ahead and jump in and see what happens here as we move into, I guess this will be the end of March. The first Kwatong army suffers attrition damage. So we are suffering some attrition damage here in India as we are advancing a little bit beyond our supply lines. That should change. We just did get a headquarter unit into the area, so that should change here shortly. Meanwhile, Venezuela has joined the Allies. Chile has joined the Allies. That's interesting. So that's actually going to give us a avenue for our Argentinian forces to actually invade Chile, which is pretty interesting because we already knocked Brazil out of the war. We actually just raised a Argentinian army. So, yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Also, we've started to turn Turkey toward the Axis. We had a 21% breakthrough last turn. So, potentially, depending on how things break in the next 6 to 8 months, they may end up joining the Axis as well. We're invading Egypt as well in an effort to try and get... they're advancing south. In an effort to try and not retake Cairo. We took Cairo early in the war. Our hope is that we can take it back again. Those are level 3 British tanks there. Damn. They're probably falling back to Narvik now. The problem in Norway is we don't have a headquarters unit here, so it's going to be difficult to supply ourselves if the British are well supplied. We'd been beating them in northern Norway because they had no supply that far north, but Narvik is a secondary supply base, so... Alright, so there's the British carrier operating in the channel. It's going to knock out this amphibious force here. There they go. But at least we did nearly wipe out the carrier air arm. And, oh goodness, this carrier is stuck. It used all of its action and movement points. This circle around the hex means that it cannot move, and we are going to subject it to Stuka dive bombers in the April turn that's coming up here and potentially destroy a British carrier. Additionally, another British carrier is moving down here to try and engage our submarine, and its air wing did not fare any better, and it's also going to be stuck down here. So that's pretty meaningful. A bunch of British cruisers also moving in to try and bombard our land forces. You can see them really bringing their navy into play here this turn as they attempt to stem the tide in France as we attempt to throw them into the sea. They're pulling out all the stop. Oh, geez, that was a long-range bombing raid against Pilsen there from the American bombers on Sicily. Also, those look like level 5, maybe, strategic bombers? They look like B-36s or maybe B-29s, but they certainly obliterated the industry there. So they're doing some hurt to our economy. Fortunately, with the fall of Russia, we have a massive economic engine to stem any losses that their bombers may do. I just think our economy is too large for them to have too big of an impact against it. We'll see if the British armor there is able to break through at El Agela. Their tactical bombers here in North Africa are finally having some success. An American carrier is located here near Liverpool. We won't be able to strike at that, but we might be able to strike a critical blow against the Royal Navy in the Channel. Obviously, it would be suicide to move against this large of a fleet, but if they're going to be operating in the Channel, they're going to be within range of those Stukas, so we might have a chance to do some serious damage to these guys. Meanwhile, you can see British armor attacking here. Oh, fuck, for fuck's sake. Another enemy landing here, this one at Amsterdam, and they cripple a submarine fleet of ours there that was based there. So the British just landed paratroopers in our rear at Amsterdam. You can see them pulling back a little bit in India here to a more defensible line, perhaps. Meanwhile, American submarines operating in the Sulu Sea. British carriers operating in the Strait of Malacca against transports of ours, which are based at Singapore, doing huge damage to those troops at sea. But again, another British carrier using all of its movement points, and now it's going to be within easy striking range of our fleet here off of French Indochina or Vietnam. So the British have a reasonable likelihood of losing 3 carriers this turn, which I can only imagine what that would do to the British morale. The British national morale is actually very low. The Americans are still at around 73% national morale, but the British are at about 54 last I checked. So we'll have to see where they are at the start of this turn, but these casualties are having a big impact on their national morale. That does influence the morale of their troops, but it also influences the... I mean, they can, if they get down to 0, surrender. I don't know how realistic it would be for us to force them to surrender without an invasion of England, but anything we can do to reduce the effectiveness of their troops, especially as we're invading India and those troops are subject to that national morale, you know, the more the better. We did lose 1 troop transport for the Japanese and the 16th Army for the Germans at sea, so a bit of a foolish turn for us. Meanwhile, Germany's got a bunch more units here. We've got some naval flotillas also arriving. So we're going to deploy these guys to Dusseldorf. The anti-aircraft unit we're going to deploy... I don't even know where to put it. I guess here. And we've got these motor torpedo boats that we can deploy in Germany. The intent with these guys is going to be to race into the channel and do... And essentially, these guys, the intent of buying these units was basically to act as scouts for us as we potentially consider invading... England. Meanwhile, the Japanese submarines were purchased in an effort to get some scouting eyes with our fleet. So we got this British carrier here. Our air wing is going to just decimate these guys. They didn't even lose a single plane there. The Soyuz aircraft just wiped out that British carrier without loss. We are going to need to unload these guys just to get reinforcements going for them. So we're going to need to build them back up. But the British just lost a carrier. We just wiped that carrier out with just so easy. All right, do any of these guys have supply now? None of these? This guy's the best supply here. Just coming out of Lido, or however you pronounce that. Trying to destroy that British unit there. Nice, destroy that Special Forces unit. Alright, we'll move this headquarter unit forward here. Hopefully to keep attrition low for some of these guys. You know, I really need to move this headquarter unit around to get them closer to the front. Reinforce these guys just a little bit. This invasion of India is going to be tricky without headquarters units being a little bit closer to the front. To reinforce some of these air units that lost pretty heavy casualties there. Can we bomb these bombers? Yes, okay, so these bombers are not within range of their air cover. There we go. So we just destroyed that strategic bomber unit of the Americans in India. I don't know if I want to move this armor up. I'd rather not. I don't want to expose it to level 3 British tanks if I don't have to. So we'll hold in place here. All right. So this is going to be a slow invasion of India. All right, so we're going to attack here. We're going to fall these guys back. Move these level 12s up. Damn, they didn't quite do as much damage as I had hoped. Alright, there's no air units up here, so let's move these fighters down. Oh, this is a Pershing, so this must be like a level 4 or level 5 American tank here. Fortunately, I think we have level 2 anti-tank weapons for our Japanese troops. So that'll be nice. So not a lot of progress being made there. Meanwhile, the British did move some troops into Karachi. So we'll attack them here. Nice. God damn it. So close. Can these guys finish them off? The cavalry to the rescue! British unit destroyed. Alright, so we can't actually take Karachi this turn, unfortunately. Doesn't look like. But the invasion of India's having some success. British unit destroyed at Karachi. We'll see if they reinforce with more units there. We are moving our headquarter unit forward to get a little bit better supply forward there. Hopefully we can take Karachi, and it looks like, I'm guessing the majority of their attention is here in the east, so maybe we can catch them off guard there. Meanwhile, this headquarters unit's moving slowly to the front in Egypt. Suez falls to the Germans. Alexandria falls. I'm not going to attack Cairo this turn. And actually, I'm going to swap these guys out because I don't have good enough supply here. But taking Alexandria is a secondary supply, so this should help all of our other troops in this area. And we'll see how that plays out. Look, meanwhile, it looks like there's a British battleship actually here, which we did some damage to it. Mainly, I think, because it's in port, so our ground units can actually hurt it pretty badly. Alright, let's reinforce this guy. Hopefully he survives another turn. Alright, so we're not going to make any more progress in Italy this turn. What the fuck did I just do? What did I even do? I flew a recon flight and there were interceptors. I didn't even mean to do that. That was a mistake. Meanwhile, the British land at Amsterdam. The Italians are going to counterattack. Our Antwerp armor is going to counterattack. I mean, if the British just want their troops to die, seems like a pretty good way to accomplish it. Amsterdam's immediately retaken. And now we can reinforce these subs back up to full strength. Good weather, actually, for our troops here. Or for our bombers here. So these units, 6 to... Yeah. These guys have maritime attack, by the way. So we can go ahead and use our coastal guns to finish that carrier off. Use a strategic bomber against it in the first strike. There are some American interceptors here. We've got some escorts going for our bombers, so we're hurting some of their fighters. Meanwhile, that was a successful raid. I guess we'll use this northernmost Stuka to finish off the second British carrier. So 2 British carriers destroyed today. Question is, do we want to go after more of their naval forces and severely weaken their navy, or do we want to go after their ground forces? Honestly, I don't even feel like I need the... And these guys are in port, so I guess... Oh, wait. Yes, please. All right, what is this? Eisenhower, an American headquarter unit. Boom! Gone. Stukas destroyed them. Sitting ducks. All right, so we got that. This Stuka hasn't attacked yet. Against this American unit at sea. Boom. Gone. Destroyed. This guy hasn't attacked yet. The problem is I can't finish that guy off. It doesn't look like this Stuka can reach anybody else. He can hit this guy for 6 damage, just light cruiser. But honestly, I'd rather use him here. Just because I can't finish this guy off and he's going to retreat immediately. So rather than bomb him and have no follow-up, I'm going to go ahead and bomb this American Corps unit here. Then we'll attack with our infantry. We'll swap out with this infantry. Destroy that unit. Then we'll swing in with our armor here at Nates. We'll attack with infantry here. Actually, I should have bombarded with artillery, but we'll do that now, because these guys are entrenched. Now that they're... Alright, some defensive artillery is firing in support, but we've got this armor, this heavy armor going up against them. Multiple defensive artillery strikes. Can any of these... Oh, yes. Okay, so these guys can pull back, but these Panthers can get all the way up in here and destroy them. So we just destroyed that British unit here at Nance. Or Nates, or however you pronounce it. Then we can move this... Which one do we want to move? Move these guys in here. Attack the American headquarter unit here in France. Destroy that. I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'm not actually going to advance the armor in here, but we'll move this Romanian army in here, and then we'll attack this British Corps from the south. We'll do some damage there. This King Tiger unit here destroys them, advances here, knocks this Canadian army up a bit. This is just, things are cascading. Rip to the Allies here, huh? Blitzkrieg at its finest, folks. Anybody else move in here? Can we finish these guys off? This army can move here. We can finish off this American tank unit at St. Malo. These guys can still attack. Do some damage there. Then the Tigers can advance here. Rip to the Allied Expeditionary Force, guys. Holy hell, we just obliterated a huge portion of their force ashore. Wow. That's a rough turn for the Western Allies, guys. That is a rough turn. They are now just bottled up in the Brest Peninsula. They may die next turn. I mean, next turn may be it. We're going to move some of these air units here a little bit closer to the coast now that we've freed up some of the hexes here to get these guys a little bit closer to supporting for an eventual assault against the British Navy. And just like that, this Allied Expeditionary Force, the British lost 3 carriers this turn, guys. And yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So the British Navy dropped. They were at 25. They must have gotten a couple of new naval units, but they're down to 24 now. Americans are still at 25. The British Army lost 4 units. Americans lost a couple as well. If we take a look at national morale, I think the British were at 53 last I checked. They're at 52 now. I wonder if that is all these casualties have really been factored in or not. But just wow. Plus, the Americans lost 2 units at sea, right? All right, let's reinforce these fighters. Okay. Yikes. All right, so that's the situation there. What in Norway? These guys don't have much supply, do they? Ah! Why are they there? Why are they retreating to, like, nothingness? That's weird, isn't it? Alright. I don't know why they're not in Narvik, why they're, like, off to the east here. Meanwhile, I am going to start loading some of these guys up in amphibious transports. I'm just going to keep these guys... Are there any partisans can rise up in Warsaw? I'm just nervous that there'll be like a Warsaw ghetto uprising or something like that. But I'm going to start getting some units ready for amphibious invasions. That's my overarching strategy here. Alright, so Italy's done. North Africa's done. We've re-invaded Egypt. Western India's done. The Germans honestly might be the decisive factor here in India, especially with our supply problems that we're trying to overcome. We're moving headquarters units in, but it doesn't feel like enough. Yeah. So our naval units didn't all move yet for Japan. So we'll finish off this American unit here at Battledong, or however you pronounce it. Or Badawang? I'm not sure. Okay, so I think there's an American headquarters unit somewhere over here. Meanwhile, it'd be great to reduce these subs. Why can't my aircraft do anything against them? Can I set the mode to be different? Is it naval tactical a bad mode for these guys to be set to? Alright. Okay, so apparently when it dives... Shit. We do some damage to it. That's a light cruiser. I don't know if that can do anything. Nice. Alright, that attack worked. Where is this guy? Oh no! Alright, can these guys hit? Have they all done all their attacks? Yes. Really? That's all this guy can move? Huh. Alright, let's move this carrier up this way. Alright. Wait, I moved him, now I can't attack at all? Really? Well, that's stupid. Lame. Alright. Gotta make sure my guys are safe from enemy attack here. Doesn't look like my battleships are gonna do anything. Except maybe take casualties against these enemy subs. Alright, so Batavia looks like it's saved. Meanwhile, we've got forces in the area to support an invasion of either Australia or something. This American sub is getting pounded. Its morale sucks. The S-42 is an old sub, but super experienced now. Maybe we can actually destroy an American submarine. I feel like that's the majority of their navy that we can't do anything about. For Japan, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and purchase a destroyer or two. Let's see, we can afford it. It's going to take 6 turns, but we might actually have time to leverage that. So we'll purchase maybe 2 of them. I think that's all we can afford right now. Diplomacy, does Japan have any chits available? No, no, no. No one has any chits. Turkey's at 45%. I think pretty much all of our investments are tied up in Turkey. Germany, meanwhile, kind of feel like our best bet is submarines at this point. They take 6 turns to make, though. Destroyers take 6. Motor torpedo boats take 3. We just finished some of them. Cruisers, battleships, those all take 15 months. There's no way we're going to accomplish anything with that. Actually, we probably should buy some more paratroopers. These guys can cross into the Badlands. We'll buy a Italian motor torpedo boat. Germany really cranking up the submarine production, mainly because I just don't really have a lot else to spend money on. We've got maritime bombers that are going to be built in the next couple of months. V2s, additional infantry are on the way. Additionally, we probably should... let's see... maybe reinforce these Argentine troops before they invade Chile. So with Peru on the Allied side and Chile on the Allied side, with these additional Argentine troops arriving, we should be able to take South America, or everything in South America that's turned against us. The troops won't start arriving till June, though, so we're still a couple months away from that. I don't think Chile's going to have much in the way of forces to bring to bear against us. Looks like they got a garrison unit there, and that's about it. Problem is, I need another garrison unit to garrison the capital of Buenos Aires. I don't think Argentina has anything I can build. They're maxed out. So yeah. Anyway, Baghdad's good. Probably want some garrison units. Honestly, I'd rather move these guys toward garrisoning some places along the coast, just in the event the Allies try and land any troops there against us. But yeah, we're gonna need to figure out a way to turn the tide on the naval war in the Mediterranean, I think. But I think our Stukas will at least shut down, for the most part, any enemy naval forces in the channel. Have to see. Nonetheless, a pretty successful turn, I think. It's a little bit of a longer turn, too. It's been a little while since we've had a longer turn like that. Let's operate these guys. Do we want to bring them to Norway? I don't know. Let's move them to the coast here. I'd rather have an army unit. So we'll move these guys from Kazan. I don't really think there's any reason to bring additional reinforcements to, what do you call it? India yet. So move those guys to Danzig. We're going to need some heavy armor. We're going to need more than just core units to go after England, but we'll start there. With all these air units, we should be able to blast a path into the English coast. So we'll see. An American carriers up there. But yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see how things play out next time. I appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another episode of Strategic Command. But until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.